Hello. On the last video, I covered how to adjust your binoculars and how to practice with them so that you're ready to go out in the field and quickly focus and find the birds in your field of view. We lightly touched on field guides, so I want to cover that at this point in time. I want to help you make birding identification fun and easy and open that wonderful door to the great outdoors where you can meet fellow birders and have some wonderful experiences. Now, this is the book, Peterson's Field Guides. It's Birds of Eastern and Central North America, and it is the 5th edition. And I like this book because it's a laminated type of cover to it, and field guides get a lot of abuse being in backpacks. There's also other features I like about it. We'll cover that as I move along. Quickly, the last video talked about making tabs, and so I'm just going to cover that right now. Again, the tabs that I put on for the first one is the large water birds, and then the second tab is for the large land birds. The next tab that I have is about halfway into the book. It's going to cover the rest of the book. It ends with the woodpeckers. There we go. And it starts right here with the small land birds. And there's 2 extra tabs that I put on here. The first one, I have lavender, which gets me right to the finches. And then the next tab that I have is sparrows. Those tend to give me a little bit of a challenge. What I like about this is we want to practice before we get out in the field. So let's take a look at the shapes and the silhouettes of birds. This is really important and going to save you some time. So you might be able to identify the bird right here on the wire. We see those a lot over little canal areas. A lot of people might be able to identify this one right here just by the looks of it. So here's your cheat sheet over here on this side, and go ahead and practice just like you did flashcards when you were a child learning things. Go ahead and do that, make your birding easier. And birds on the wing take on a different shape. So here's the great inside the back cover silhouettes that you can practice. Notice how the bird's wings here are angular, and notice how the birds here are rounded. Notice the shape of the tail. It's fanned here. This is a long and narrow one. Over here we see a bird with rounded wings, and then take a look at that tail happening there. So being able to train yourself to notice those things are going to be the things that make birding a lot easier for you. A way to practice that is, instead of complaining when you get a red light in town, is notice the birds on the telephone wires and on the telephone poles. And if there's one of those canals beside you, take a look and see what's walking along the edges there. When your light turns green, that's the end of your lesson. Move on to the next one. So that's kind of a fun game I play and practice and keep myself in shape with the birding. In Florida, we do have several different habitats that you want to keep in mind. We have fresh and saltwater marshes, we have the beaches, prairies, and uplands. And different birds will be in some of those different areas. So if you know where you are, that's also going to help. Pay attention to the bird's behavior. How is it walking? Is it walking quickly? Does it hop? What's the shape of its beak and the bill? What is it doing? What is it eating? Did you see it eat a frog? Did it capture something in its talons and fly off with it? So those are really key factors to remember. We haven't even used the field guide as far as identification thus far. Voice is very important. Birds have several different ways of making sounds. A woodpecker can drill on a tree and we can hear that sound. He also has a call to his mate, and we can identify from that sound. Also, if we listen real carefully, we can hear the wind as it goes through the feathers of a bird, or if it's an owl, maybe not. So these are identifying features that you want to keep in your birding world. It's not just a visual thing, but listen with your ears as well. And then the topography of your bird is very important. And what we mean by that is basically the anatomy. If you don't know the difference in where an eyebrow is and what the eye line is, where the talons are, you want to take some time and go ahead and get familiar with the basic bird parts. and that also is going to help a lot with your birding. And then finally is the field marks, and that's what this book is all about. Remember the game we used to play as a child, all the pictures, and what's the difference in this picture and that one? Well, this Peterson's field guide made that easy. They've drawn lines to the differentiating features on the birds, telling me, oh, are these birds' feet orange or are they red? And that's going to help. Those are the main clues in that one. Over here, sometimes the marks are so distinguishing that it really doesn't take any more than a careful eye to notice what's happening with that. I want to thank you for your time, and just remember to review your skills for identifying birds. That's knowing their silhouettes and paying attention to their size and shape, their habitat, the behavior that they display when they're in there. Listen for that voice and pay attention to the bird parts so that when you do look and you see the identifying marks on it, you know what part of the body they are in there so that you can identify it in your guide. Happy birding. Meet some wonderful people out there in the field. Thank you for your time, and see you on the next video.